Hurry Up Tomorrow is directed by Trey Edward Schultz, the man who made movies like It Comes at Night and Waves a few years ago. And if you're assuming this is based on the album that The Weeknd just dropped, yes, this actually stars him and is even co-written by him. And in here he plays a fictionalized version of himself as a musician who is having insomnia. He's not being able to do everything properly anymore. He's got a drug addiction and he's just trying to find some kind of way to keep going. And that's basically the movie that you get. What you see over here is eventually what plays out is that psyche of his just completely breaking down. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a companion piece to the album. Now, I've heard the album. I actually like The Weeknd's music, and the album is pretty fun, but I was thinking about it from a movie standpoint, and I thought, what exactly do you do over here? Granted, if you listen to the album and if you listen to some of the lyrics, there is a narrative through line over here when it comes to what Abel is going through in his head, and that's something that you can translate to the big screen, but even then I'm curious about it. But when it comes to the movies that Schultz has made before, movies like the ones I mentioned, I've actually been a fan of them, and I think he's got some really great skills when it comes to being a director. In fact, I got to meet him in 2019 when he was doing Waves, and he's a really awesome guy, and when he was working on that, just some of the ideas that were, sort of running through his head when he was putting it together were really interesting, and those did end up in the movie. Having seen this, when it comes to some of those strengths that he brings to something, like especially from the visuals and the sound design that really enraptures you, there's a lot of really good stuff in this movie. This is a technically very solid experience. It's very well filmed, and some of the more, psychedelic imagery that it plays around with, even despite that, it's very good to look at overall. And the sound design from Johnny Byrne, who also just won an Oscar for The Zone of Interest, really, really well done. And when it comes to the music, if you're a fan of The Weeknd, you're probably gonna like this a lot because there's a lot of times you're gonna hear a lot of his hits, and even the score, which is done by him and with Daniel Lopatin, who also did Uncut Gems and Good Time. There is a good score working over here. But I also think that overall as a movie, it's a very disjointed mess. While I do appreciate that it is making some choices that are, very unique and trying to do things very differently, it doesn't always work. And I think as a result of that, it leads to a movie that is just kind of scatterbrained overall. Again, there are things that I admire. I think that when it comes to some of the concepts, especially when it comes to looking into Abel's mental psyche at the time that this album was made and seeing some of the things that it's dealing with how he is looking at his own life, yeah, there are some interesting anecdotes to be had over there. So I feel like in that sense, there might be two different camps when it comes to Hurry Up Tomorrow. There's those people who are going to really like the movie because it manages to do exactly that when it comes to what the album is doing. And then there's the other side of it where it might not work for you at all. I don't think there's any real in-between when it comes to this movie. You're either completely on board with what it's doing or you're absolutely not on board with it. The performances also go through some variations of good to not great. I think Abel Tesfaye as an actor, I've seen a few things now with him. Uncut Gems, he had one scene in. He was not too bad in that. But then I saw The Idol. I did not like that at all, pretty much. But over here, I think he's a bit better, but probably not the best actor, It also doesn't help that sometimes, a lot of times in the movie, he's sharing the screen with Jenna Ortega, who is one of the best stars we've got right now. She's incredible in what she's been doing. And she's acting circles around everybody. And she's very big in this movie. There are scenery chewing performances, and then there are scenery chomping performances. There's a point in this movie that it goes to the chomping area with Jenna Ortega. I thought she did a great job over here. I also really like Barry Keoghan in this movie. He was having some fun with his performance. Every now and then, it has a moment of clarity where it, decides it wants to go down a certain path and use a specific moment to address address something. And there is a self-awareness to it that ties into his music discography as well, because there's a point where you're going through some of his songs and there is clearly something over there that you're looking for, or at least the movie seems to be looking for, in order to understand where Abel is at this point of time. And the concept is really interesting. The execution of it, wobbly, because it struggles with some of the tone in those moments. It's a very serious setting, but it's also trying to be very over the top and silly at times, and it can sort of, juggle that in a very flimsy manner, basically. And it juggles all of those in a very flimsy manner, and I feel like that's where the movie eventually does end up faltering quite a bit. Because every now and then, those moments, when they work, I wish they were in the entire movie. I wish there was a better commitment to some of that, and instead of being the mess that it is. Now, like I've already mentioned before, there's a very likely scenario that this is received differently by whoever watches it. Who knows? Maybe this will get a huge following with fans of The Weeknd. Maybe it'll have a cult following. Who knows? Maybe it'll pull some kind of a miracle down the line where years from now there's reappraisals for Hurry Up Tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe it'll be forgotten in the annals of time. There's no real way to tell, I think. I do, again, appreciate some of the craft on display over here, and I do like some of the things that they're doing, but overall, I don't think the movie entirely works, and I was left very jumbled on it by the end. I was so jumbled, in fact, that I don't even know what grade to give it. Like, I'm actually racking my brain over this, and I'm not entirely sure what to say about it. This is one of those reviews where I feel like I open it up more to you rather than I keep it to, a number. So if you go watch the movie, if you decide to see it this weekend or whenever that you do, I'm curious what you're gonna make of it. So in the comments, whenever you do watch the movie, if you like this review, let me know what you guys think about it. And I'm very interested in hearing your insights as well. Guys, thank you very much as always for watching. Look forward to more videos very, very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the movies.